What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to My Social Life. This is the podcast where you can hear the real stories behind the people on social media. And today I'm joined by Melissa Guenette. And Melissa is an entrepreneur. She's the CEO and owner of MG Social, and she's grown her Instagram to over 28,000 Instagram followers. And I'm very excited to have her here on the podcast today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So where I want to start is I'm really curious with people in the digital space, what they went to school for. Because I find oftentimes it's completely different than what they're doing today.
Absolutely. I've never really used my degree. I went to school for political science and economic history at Carleton University.
Okay. So at the time, what were your career goals then?
I was supposed to be a lawyer. So I wanted to do that because I decided that I wasn't too sure what I wanted to be. So I figured if I became a lawyer, it would open up a lot of doors for me in different fields. And it just seemed like something fun and interesting at the time.
Mm-hmm. So kind of looking back on it, is there anything from school that you still use today?
I just think problem solving. Mm-hmm. I learned how to problem solve a lot of issues in school and time management, and those are the two key things that I still bring with me today.
Yeah. And so what about designing bars in Ottawa?
So my original background is in bars and nightclubs, and we used to manage and run bars and nightclubs, and I had a great time doing it. And again, that's where like the problem solving, the quick pace environment really comes into place. And it was just a really great learning and growing experience because you learn so many things about economics and business throughout the entire process that it's really enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. And I heard you once say that you learned a lot about marketing during that time.
Yeah, so because whenever we'd have grand openings and stuff like that, we always reached out to marketing firms and agencies like that to help promote the bar or the industry that we were working in at the time, and they were great. I learned so much by working closely with them on marketing plans and strategies on how we were going to make this bar or club or anything like that a success. And just by learning through them, I learned sort of the way that they plan it, what their thought process is on how to establish a proper marketing plan.
Really? That's cool. So when you were designing the bars, were you physically designing like the interiors as well? Or?
We worked with specific designers to help them do that, but it was more like a project manager. So somebody who would like oversee the production of each stage of the bar, how it developed, and then running it and opening it and making sure that everybody knows their jobs really well for a couple months before a company would leave out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So eventually, why did you end up leaving the restaurant space?
I loved it, but I just got a little bit burnt out. I would work 17 hours a day, 6-7 days a week, and it was something that I truly enjoyed, but there comes a time in everyone's life where you have to decide like what it is that you're really looking for in the future, and so I just pivoted into marketing.
Okay. So is that when you got into digital then, when you decided to leave the restaurant business?
Yeah, it actually started by accident. I had a couple friends who had restaurants that weren't doing so well, and they needed a little bit of help and guidance. So I was happy to, give them a hand. And in doing so, I really fell in love with that different side of the business. Mm-hmm. And that just sort of snowballed. So it's a great thing living in Ottawa that if you do a great job for one person, that word of mouth just really carries on. And we've managed to build and grow a company around that.
Yeah. So what was it about it that like really drew you to it?
I was just really happy to see a small business succeed because I understand what it's like to not have a large budget, and to be able to really be a part of that growth and their success was just really rewarding. And it's sort of that's what I liked moving forward. And what is it that intrigues people and what makes people decide to choose one business or one restaurant over another is just something like the psychological aspect I always found kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then so it was kind of from there where you're helping your friends launch their businesses where you decided to kind of start your own, and that's where MG Social came?
Yeah, so I did it on the side for about 1.5 years and enjoyed it, but never really thought of it as a full-time career. And then all of a sudden I started having quite a few clients and things like that, and it took up a lot of my time, and all of a sudden I realized that this is what I am going to do now. So I shifted all my focus from bars and restaurants into my company.
Mm-hmm. And so for the most part then, you got most of your clients through word of mouth. There was people you knew first, and then the good word just kind of spread?
Yeah, I've been really lucky. I know a lot of people have worked really hard towards it, and we do such a great job, and we put in so many hard hours and try to cover every detail that luckily enough I've been blessed to have good recommendations.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So I was going to ask if you had any advice for people that are just starting out in this space, how to get their first client, but is it basically just kind of talk to the people that you know and let them know that you're doing this?
Well, know your network and know your niche. So when I started, because my background was in bars and restaurants, most of my clients were actually in that industry because that's who I knew and that's who knew me. So those people knew that I was really good at project management and those things, they knew that those skills were transferable, and that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it well. And they're the ones who believed in me at first. And then just through working and doing a great job with them, I was able to branch out into like other avenues and other industries. But that's how I started. Just know your network and work on that.
Mm-hmm. And so how big is the company now? Like how many employees do you have?
So we just opened our new studio on Colonnade. So yay us. And we have 4 employees and about 7 independent contractors that we used throughout it because we don't have them full time.
Mm-hmm. So how do you determine then like what you need to contract out and who you bring in as your own employee?
So I would love to be able to have everybody in every division of our company work full time. That would be amazing. But unfortunately, you always have to know the limitations of what it is and how much work you can have for somebody. One thing we look for an employee is somebody who can do a lot of the things that I can't do, something that I can like micromanage. I can let them take care of a department or something like that. It's something that I'm really looking forward to. Somebody who is a really good go-getter and isn't afraid to do 3 or 4 different jobs in one.
That's interesting. So what's the hiring process then look like? I'm just curious because I feel like a lot of people, once they start freelancing and building their own company, it's that next step to grow outside of being just yourself, to start bringing in employees is a hard part.
Bringing in employees was really hard for me because it's my name on the door. So I'm a bit of a controlled person who likes to make sure every detail is absolutely perfect. So when you bring an employee in, it's really hard to sort of like let go of a lot of the things that I used to do all the time. But what I found was to make sure that you have time to train them. So really hire and bring in people when you're not overly busy so that you actually can take the time to train them in every step and the things that you want them to do so that you know they're going to do them well.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a hard thing for people to do though, is when they bring in someone when they're not busy. It's when typically if you're not as busy, you're making less money coming in, right? So now you're spending money to bring in an employee, whereas when you're busy, you're making more money, so you have that extra money to hire
Yeah, it
someone,
seems
right?
a little bit backwards,
Yeah.
but just know that you need somebody and start kind of sort of putting a little bit of money away and knowing how much it's going to be. And my first employee, I just started her part-time because I was worried about really fully committing to paying that person 40 hours a week. And what if I lost a client or 2 along the way? Was I going to be able to really afford her? And just by bringing somebody in part-time, I was then able to shift that, add more hours to that to make it full-time. And also we brought in a couple interns, which helped quite a bit. And just to sort of see different people's perspectives. We really like it when everyone speaks up and has an idea. So I always tell everyone, like, at the table, always have an idea. Doesn't even have to be a great one, but have an idea so that at least we have something to bounce off.
And so when was that moment when you realized, okay, I do need to bring people in? Because I feel like that's another tough thing to make that call when you do have to kind of let go of some of the work and let someone else take over.
Oh, you know right away. You have too much work to do. There's only so much that one person can physically do. And then you have to make sure that what is your time really worth, and is it really best for you to be doing all of this, or is it in your best interest to maybe delegate some of that to another employee? And you don't necessarily have to hire somebody and bring them on full-time into your company, but even just maybe like outsource a lot of your accounting to an accountant, or maybe outsource some of your videography to a videographer, things along those lines that just really help release some of the burden and the stress of everything. And I truly believe that letting professionals do their job makes a big difference than you trying to learn how to do it.
Mm-hmm. And then so I wrote down some points of some of the services that your company offers. Mm-hmm. The first one being is you create the strategic plan. So is that like a month to month, week by week, like what exactly we posting on each day, or is it kind of like a high level plan, like these are the types of things we should be posting, and then you kind of work off that?
So every client's very different. So we customize our plans based on their specific needs, but we do try to plan everything out at about 30 days at a time. We used to do it quarterly, and then every time Facebook and Instagram would change their algorithms, and I swear Mark Zuckerberg hates me personally. I don't know, but it's always on a day that I go on holiday or something like that he chooses to update and change all our social media accounts. Mm-hmm. So I found that doing it 30 days at a time, just less work went to waste. Whenever things got updated, it gives a chance to sort of pivot and adjust some of the things we needed to do moving forward.
Yeah. And then so what goes into that plan? Like, I know each client's different, but kind of like on average, like what does each month look like?
So I'm just going to use an example of somebody who's trying to sell something, just whether you're trying to sell a pencil or a house, whatever it is. You want to know what content you're going to be creating and who you are selling to. So it's really important for us to narrow down the audience, narrow down your demographic. And once we have that, we can really lay out how many posts we want to do. I often start by looking at the holidays that are going to be coming up in that month to make sure that we have all of those dates covered, because that's the easiest thing to sort of play off of. And once we have that set, then we just sort of fill in the gaps with content around. So MG Social, we're actually a full service company, so we can actually create all the photos and the video content for you. We do that for some of our clients, and also some of our clients like to provide us with their content because they have their own content creators or something like that, and we will just, adjust the message and what time of day to post. Check your algorithms, people. It will tell you what to do. Just play around with them a little bit, and eventually you will find the proper time of day to post and niche and everything that you're looking for your demographic.
And then so in the case of a business that's trying to sell something, how often do you recommend they post? Is it a daily thing, twice a week, more than that, more than once a day?
It depends how many things you're selling. So if you're only selling one thing, then I don't recommend posting more than 3 to 4 times a week, just because people are going to get really tired of seeing a photo of the same pencil over and over again in their newsfeed. It stops becoming interesting. And it also can be really hard to create good quality content if you're only selling one thing. So it can be a little bit challenging. And it's also based on your budget, because you do want to make sure that your content is of really good quality. Don't post something just because you're supposed to post something today if it's not good. Maybe just wait, because you don't want to represent your brand poorly. And then other companies, like if you're a really large company, you're very busy, you sell an array of different things. You can post up to 3 times a day, depending on what it is. You just don't want that content to become stale, whereas when all of your followers are seeing it in their feed, that they just get bored and tired of you. You want to keep things really interesting and captivating.
And when you say when you're trying to sell something, it's not like every single post is like, check out my pencil, buy it here, right? Like it's more some storytelling content and stuff like that mixed in.
People hate being sold. What people do like is to feel like passion, they like to feel emotion, they like to feel something towards it. So if you are selling something that can be a little bit like mundane, such as a pencil, it's not new, you didn't reinvent this. It could also just be funny to maybe put maybe a comical spin on it or something like that, so that every time people see your post, they're really looking forward to feeling that joy or that emotion. You could also just be factual about it. I think things that are very factual, like, you need a pencil to write a test. Welcome to exam season. This one's going to be lucky for you. Something along those lines. And it is factual. You do need a pencil for exams. Just leave it at that.
Yeah. And so you also talk about how you're full service, so you produce the content as well. Do you find it's better when you're able to go in there and help execute your plan by also producing the content, or is it better when the company provides the creative because they kind of have worked with their brand longer than you have?
I prefer for us to do it just because we put together, so for every client we have, we put together a small team that's just dedicated towards you. So it's a group of people who really understand your company, and it's a continuous same voice that's happening throughout all your social media. And that's really good because then it helps to build that rapport between the followers and the clients and what it is that we're actually selling or promoting. So that's really nice. Whereas sometimes I find when companies provide you with content, you're hearing it through a multiple people's voices and perspective, and it can sometimes get confusing to create fluid feeds and fluid posts with something like that. However, I do have some companies that I work with who create really great content. So great for them, and I'm happy whenever they do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then with the content, are you producing it like a month in advance, similar to the strategic plan that you're implementing?
Yes.
Or just once a month you'll kind of do a mass shoot and get all the content you need for the month?
We try to. We will shoot whenever we need more content. It's something that's, we don't mind doing. But yes, we try to at least have everything planned at least a month in advance. So by the time, August 1st hits, by August 1st, we already have everything prepared for the entire month of August leading into September. And hopefully maybe even a little bit into September. And right now I'm already planning September as opposed to August because I've done August. Things like that. So we try to be as organized as possible. And it also gives us a chance that if anything does come up, if there are any issues, if a client suddenly decides to have a large promotion, we can sort of move a couple items around to include that into those 30 days.
Yeah. And then how is it working with clients when you're producing the content for them as well? Like from all my friends that work in the service industry like this, they feel like there's always a difficult time working with the clients trying to get their approval on all of the creative.
Yes. We do our best to get to know our clients as much as possible so that we know what it is that they are trying to present, so that they're a little more comfortable understanding that, yes, we will represent you in a good light that's very respectful, very proud of your company, things like that. And usually they start to feel at ease after a couple months. Leading into it, though, we do get a lot of people who come from traditional forms of media who don't quite understand how social media and online content creation works, and they are a little more apprehensive. It's usually like a younger person, maybe the assistant or something like that in the office, who will that will coordinate with a bit more, because they know they need it. They just don't always know how to execute it and how to do that, because people understand that the world's shifting into a social media and marketing world. However, they're still old-fashioned and into print and radio.
Can you kind of speak as to how it differs from traditional media versus digital media? Like I kind of like view like a TV commercial versus a Facebook ad, like how that creative differs.
The creative differs because on television, yes, you can sort of pick the time that you want your commercial to be aired, and you can pick which show you want it to sort of air between, and you have an idea of who that demographic is going to be, but it's really hard to narrow it down. Whereas with Facebook and other forms of social media, I can really narrow down my ad. So if I'm making an ad specifically for women ages 19 to 25, it will be a very fun ad directed towards young women. Mm-hmm. If I'm making an ad for women ages 45 to 65, however, that's going to be a completely different ad. Same thing for men. So because I can narrow down my categories so precisely on Facebook, it's really easy for me to create smaller, shorter, lower budget ads that really target your exact demographic and the eyes you want on your product, as opposed to just spending $1 million on a commercial that blankets, you don't really know who's watching it.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. I was actually going to ask you how important contextualized creative is to who you're speaking to. Because like I said, back in the day, you could put like a sports ad on ESPN and you understand like most people watching will probably be into sports, but you don't really know. Whereas
exactly.
with Facebook now, you know, if you're speaking to someone that's 21 and lives downtown versus 48 and lives in the suburbs, it's going to be a completely different message.
It's just different messages. And it can still be the same message, just the delivery is different. Mm-hmm. So we can have the same slogan, the same sort of feel, the same emotion. However, the delivery is different because those people are passionate about very different things. And what we want to do now, and what we find more, in fact, impactful, because there's ads everywhere you turn, is to have an ad maybe with an emotional connection or something like that, something that makes you laugh, that brings you joy, something that inspires you. Those are the ads that really get the most traction, because that's what people tend to like. But we want to be able to inspire the right age and the right group of people for your brand. And it's cheaper. Brands prefer it. People are putting so much more money into social media and online creation as opposed to television commercials and radio ads because of it. You can create, for the same price of a television ad, you can create 5 different Facebook ads and really target specific demographics.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard you talk about how TV and radio ads are kind of starting to die. Because I think TV itself is thriving with like, in terms of a digital media, like with Netflix.
Absolutely.
But the problem with that is there's no commercials anymore.
Yes.
So that's the thing, that no one's going to be watching TV commercials because traditional TV itself is dying.
Well, and that's just it. Most people, if you ask anybody 30 and under if they even have cable, most of them will say that they don't. So they're not seeing any of the commercials that people are putting out there. And a lot now, the focus is shifting a lot into product placement and influencer marketing. So you'll be watching Netflix and notice that they might mention the same brand 3 or 4 times in a show. That is not coincidence. It happens now where people are paying a lot more money to have their product placed in a show, maybe mentioned, maybe talked about, and people will try to create a proper context around that item. Nothing wrong with that, as well as influencer marketing. So people are putting a lot more money into influencers to share or showcase a brand to someone. And that way you are, in theory, watching a commercial. However, it doesn't feel that way. Mm-hmm. Kim Kardashian did it really well with makeup, and so did her sister, where she would give you makeup tutorials so you felt like you were being educated. However, all it was one giant commercial for that product.
Yeah. And back to the product placement, and again, also with influencer marketing, it's back to where you talked about people don't like to be sold to.
No.
It doesn't feel like an advertisement when it's like built into one of your favorite TV shows or when it's one of your favorite celebrities showcasing this product.
Exactly.
It's just all ties into people don't like to be sold to, and it's finding those ways to sell to people without it feeling like you're advertising.
Yeah, feeling as authentic as possible. And I tell people all the time to think as like, why did you buy, the shirt you're wearing today? What is it about it that actually spoke to you? Was it the colors? Was it because you saw someone else that you like wearing it? Was it the brand of the store that you bought it from? There's so many reasons why we do what we do, and all of that is marketing.
And so does MG Social deal with influencer marketing at all? Like, do you do any of that for your clients?
Yeah, we do a lot of it. It's one of our favorite things that we love to do. We work with a lot of influencers here and abroad to showcase specific products. We always try to let the influencer have their own control over it because I want it to be as organic as possible. If we send you a product, we want to hear your real thoughts and your real opinions on it. And I tell influencers this all the time, that like you can find something good in anything, right? Like we're obviously you don't want to say something negative too much about a product, but you can always find something good or something to showcase about that. And if they really don't like it, then please like send it back. Let us know. We're totally happy with that too. We can let our client know that these are some issues that we need to work out with this product before it goes to mass market. Things along those lines.
I think an important thing you said there too is you kind of give the influencer some creative control.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like you can tell when a brand partners with an influencer and the brand is leading the creative and like the direction of the creative, because it doesn't feel authentic to what that creator usually creates, and therefore it's not even as effective.
It's not as effective because people follow somebody or anybody for a specific reason, whether it's a friend of yours from high school or it's somebody who delivers a message in a way that you like. And we want to make sure that they know their followers better than anybody, that they deliver that message how they see fit. And we also want it to be as honest as possible. In today's marketing and world, our influencers have a lot of power. And with that power comes a certain amount of responsibility in the sense that you don't want to mislead your followers either. I have accidentally become an influencer. And a lot of the things that people send me, like, I just want to be honest. If I'm telling you that this is a great restaurant or that this is a great product or t-shirt, I want to truly be able to believe in that, as opposed to just, collect a paycheck and not believe in it at all.
Yeah. Do you think influencer marketing is kind of matured already? I've seen people debate both sides where influencer marketing is pretty much finished, like people know and understand now, but some people are saying it's just beginning. Where do you kind of land on that scale?
I think it's broadening. So I do think it is still beginning because a lot of the larger companies have just recently started to shift it. They were a little bit slow in the game and they've recently just started shifting a lot of money into it. Yes, people know. We all, like even influencers, they'll tell you, they'll see hashtag sponsored, they'll see ad, or you'll see something in that post to tell you that this is a paid sponsorship. It's whether or not you trust that influencer, and it's whether or not, that influencer is somebody who has ethics. And it's really important. The other thing I'm seeing a big shift in, it's to micro influencers. So it's not just the really large influencers that we're going after anymore. I prefer, depending on the campaign, to sometimes work with a larger variety of micro influencers because, again, they're still new into this game. They're a little bit more honest. They have a more loyal following. If you look at smaller influencers, their percentage of interaction is a lot higher than necessarily some of the larger ones, especially if you are doing a campaign that's localized in a region. So my influencer in Ottawa will have a reach of 5,000 people, but those 5,000 people are actually in Ottawa, and they will cost a lot less for a brand or company to work with. Whereas a larger influencer who has 100,000 followers, but still only 5,000 of those people actually happen to be in Ottawa, that person will cost a lot more. So if we're doing a localized campaign, we try to work with smaller micro influencers. Now, when we do larger campaigns that are more international, that's when you want influencers with more of a global reach that will have that. So I think companies have shifted and realized that it's not always the large influencer you want to go with, but that you should sometimes shift and go to the smaller influencers.
The example I always give with that is Carlo, Kutsubai Carlo, we both know, and he's past guest on the podcast.
It's one of my favorite people. If you don't know him, he just got 10,000 followers. Get him 11, people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, I couldn't believe it. He was before 10 when he was on here, and he's talking about approaching 10, and it was so cool to see him finally hit 10. But I always use him as an example when it comes to micro influencers because he has 10,000 followers now, but he'll post a contest, and he posted one I think was with Cinnaholic recently, and he got like 2,500 comments.
Absolutely.
Which is insane. Like, I don't even see big influencers getting 2,500 comments very often. So it's just to your point where if they're localized and they have a like very reliable audience, they're just as good as partnering with the big influencers.
Absolutely, especially if what you are trying to sell is in that local area, because that is where people are, and that's where that interaction is going to happen. And Carlo, I've known him for years, and he's somebody that I trust his voice. So if he tells me something, if he tells me about that a restaurant is absolutely amazing or I need to try this dish, I will blindly follow him and try out whatever he tells me to try because I know how like ethical he is, and I know that what he says is true.
So are there any other like trends you're looking at in the influencer marketing space that are kind of like have caught your eye, you see on the horizon? Like an example is I think that influencer marketing is going to move more towards long-term partnerships as opposed to one-off sponsored posts, almost like brand ambassadorship.
It definitely does that, and a lot of influencers prefer it. What's happening now is, when it started out, a lot of influencers would do like things for free, or they would volunteer their time, and now everyone's shifting into paid campaigns. And they're starting to realize their own value and realize that they should be paid a lot more, and they're asking now for a lot more. But if you're asking for thousands of dollars, then your deliverables have to be higher. So in doing so, yes, you can ask a brand or a company for a $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 campaign, but then you have to deliver a lot more. There's a lot more involved to that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but now they're taking on fewer campaigns, but larger campaigns, which is great because they get to become true ambassadors for that brand.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. But I want to kind of go back to some of the stuff that your company does. You also do posting for your clients as well.
Yes.
So you do the complete execution from the strategy all the way to the posting.
Yeah, we're full service, if you choose to. Not all of our clients require full service, but yes.
So like how much time does that take up, the actual posting of the content?
Not as much time as you would think. Again, we plan everything 30 days in advance. And so we have all of our wording set out. We have all of our wording, we have our hashtags, we know exactly what we're going to do, we know what time it's going to post. We don't have it automated though. We have everything where we still need to press like that go button for it to go live. I believe in this because you never know what could happen in the world. You don't want to come across as insensitive to a cultural issue that might have happened that day. You want to make sure that all your wording is really on message. You don't want to be talking about a rainy day when it's beautifully sunny outside and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So we do have everything planned, but posting it's not that hard because we work on our layouts and we have it all organized and we're pros at it by now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you keep referencing like the timing of day to post.
Yes.
Is there a time that you usually aim for on like specific days that you see the best engagement?
It really varies on what it is in all of our clients that we're trying to do. And it depends if you're an international brand or a local brand. If you're an international brand, there's that old saying where 8 a.m. is great because it's in China and everything works out well and that's beautiful. I personally find it used to be 4 or 5 o'clock that was big, but now they keep changing the algorithms on us and it's becoming a bit of a pain. I personally find around noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon is our sweet spot because I find it gives a post enough chance to build up momentum by the time 4 and 5 o'clock hit out. And then that way you're sort of at the top of other people's news feeds. The algorithms and the way everything works, you're at the top of people's news feeds by about 4 or 5 o'clock. And that's when people get off work and start taking public transportation and looking at it.
Mm-hmm. And then so like with social media for businesses now, what's something that you notice a lot of companies just don't get? Like something that they can improve on with their social media?
Relatability. Really you have the opportunity to speak and to engage with thousands and millions of people, and a lot of times they're not taking that step. Like they're not actually taking the moment to truly engage and talk to the people that use their company or that follow their company or their brand. And I think that's something that's really important to do. People want to be heard and they want to be seen. So if you as a company can really take time to look at your followers, engage with them, and really sort of build that rapport with them, I find people will become a lot more loyal. Mm-hmm. And that's something we try to do. We dedicate like specific times of day to reach out and talk to a lot of our followers.
So that's a part of what you offer as well. Then you offer the almost like the customer service, the replying to DMs, comments, everything.
Absolutely. And then whenever we do have, because on occasion you will get a customer complaint or you will have somebody with, honest feedback that they want to give you, and we just screenshot that and we have a liaison at the company that they can, address it. We usually try to, forward them an email that they can, speak with a representative at that company for.
Yeah. And then so what are some things that you've seen companies do really well? Like maybe you have specific examples of things like you've seen companies do on social and you were like, it like caught your eye because they did such a good job.
Mine is stay true to your brand. I know some people who try so hard to please everybody that they forget who they're actually trying to sell to. Just because one person might have one suggestion, but they're out of your demographic, why are we listening or why are we reaching for people that we're not actually trying to sell to? Mm-hmm. So some people are just too focused on growing their numbers to a really large amount, but they're not actually focusing on the client or the people or the message that they're trying to say. So just narrow yourself down a little bit and know exactly what your brand is, who you're trying to sell to, and stick to it. Consistency is key.
And you mentioned how you have accidentally become an influencer yourself. So how did that happen? How did you grow your Instagram to over 28,000 followers?
It started off, so I originally got Instagram for Blues Fest a couple years ago. My sister-in-law is a fashion designer, and I was helping her out, so I just hopped on Instagram for fun. And within a couple months, it was at a couple thousand, and a company sent me a pair of leggings. I'll never forget this. They sent me a pair of leggings, and I was over the moon. I couldn't believe that a company had sent me leggings for no reason whatsoever, as far as I was concerned. And that was my first introduction to becoming an influencer. So that was fun. And then also just in communicating and being part of the city and really leveraging your network and your contacts, it's grown that way. Also, I try to be as authentic as possible. So if you look at my Instagram, which is at Miss Guenette, if anyone's wondering, take a look and you'll see that I don't actually Photoshop any of my photos. I don't edit them. There's no filter on anything.
Really?
No, I just try to keep it as raw and real as possible. I also don't like taking like 100 different photos to get that perfect shot. So if it's not perfect, I will still post it anyways because I'm a real person and that's how I looked at that time. And yeah, like I just think it makes it, in a world where everyone's being so fake, it's really nice to see some honesty, and I think people resonate with that. At least I hope.
Yeah, no, definitely. So like, what are some things that you did tactically to try and grow it? Or was it pretty much all organic, like people just started coming in and kept coming in? Or were you doing things specifically to try and grow your account?
I think pairing with certain brands really helped to grow my account. So I would get featured on other accounts, which really brought in a lot of traffic, which was really good. And also just being like building that community of influencers in your own city. Everyone sort of helps each other out quite a bit here in Ottawa, and it's a really wonderful. Everyone's so nice. And so just building that community, and again, in the entrepreneurial world as well, building it. Also, I am really good at the algorithms in the back end, and I understand it because it's my job. So it made things a little bit easier for me because we spent all day behind the science of building an account. So it does help too.
You don't have to give away all your secrets, but do you have any quick tips for some advice on how to work with the Instagram algorithm today?
Somebody once told me to bring social back into social media, and people don't want you to just be that person with the nice photo on like the other end of their phone. You really want to sort of like engage with them and really want them to feel and know you socially as well as just in the media.
My question next was kind of in the similar vein of that, is if you lost all of your followers,
Yes.
and you woke up tomorrow and you had 0 followers,
Yes.
what would you do to start growing again on Instagram?
Basically the exact same thing I have been doing now. I would reach out to everybody. I also have quite a vast like mailing list, so it's important to sort of, know different avenues on how to keep your business alive. And if your business is Instagram, what would happen if it went down tomorrow? Do you have any other avenues to sort of like reach your fans and followers? We have a massive mailing list, and because my Instagram is locally based in Ottawa, I think it wouldn't be that hard for me to grow it back again because I really love all my followers. They're so nice, and I have built up a bit of a relationship with some of them. So I truly believe that if it just went down and if another social media popped up, I'd be able to transfer a lot of people over that way.
And so is your mailing list like your personal mailing list or for your company?
It's for a company, yeah, which has derived from a lot of my personal mailing list was in there as well. So yes, and with our company, because we do a lot of events and stuff throughout the city where we bring large groups and large crowds, I actually get a chance to meet a lot of these people. So like, big hugs and stuff like that whenever we see each other, and it's really nice to just build that community and grow it.
And so do you ever get recognized then in public? Has that ever happened to you?
Yes.
Yeah, what's that like?
I love it most of the time. There are some, so like obviously like please come say hi to me. I always love it when somebody comes and says hi to me. I'm actually a very nice person. I won't recognize you right away because I'm always not wearing my glasses, so I might not be able to see you quite right away until you come up close enough. But just say hi. It's really nice. The only time I don't particularly like it is if I'm on my phone or if I'm like in the middle of like sitting at a restaurant talking with somebody or in the middle of a meeting. I find it a little bit awkward when someone like comes to say hi at that point, but any other time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then so you also have grown the MG Social account a fair amount. It's at 6,000, over 6,000 followers now. So how does it differ running your personal account versus running your company's account?
Just the voice that I use. So we have a lot of different people who have the voice on our MG Social account because people do different campaigns at our work. But the voice is a lot of we as opposed to I. So we're very proud that we've been able to accomplish this. Check out a behind the scenes shoot. Also with our MG Social account, we try to keep it as real as possible. So if you look at it, it's actually just a lot of behind the scenes stuff of what we do every day. And I think it's fun because people get to see that little like sneak peek into the real world that happens at MG Social, not just that glossed over photoshopped version at the very end. That, you know, some days we goof around and some days, you know, things aren't as pretty, but the end result is beautiful and things like that.
And so does having that 6,000 follower base, does that add more credibility, you think, to your company when you're first meeting clients for the first?
I think so. Now 6,000 is not that high. Like it's a nice number. It's a nice organic number. It's great. But yes, we do get clients from it. However, like I think I would feel very uncomfortable going to a social media company that doesn't have any followers because that is their job.
Yeah.
So if a social media company can't seem to get, you know, a couple thousand followers on their social accounts, either they're not taking it seriously or they're not very good at it. I always say it's like going to a hairdresser with bad hair. You know, you're sort of apprehensive.
Yeah. And so when your company or when people come to your company and they see that how many followers your company has and you have almost 30,000 followers, do they expect similar results that like, oh, you have 30,000 followers, you're going to get my company to that near 30,000 follower mark? Yes,
and we can.
Yeah.
Like that is something that we do and we've done it for clients. It's just a matter of we try to be as realistic in meetings as possible. It depends on your region, your demographic. Like if you're an international company, then it's really easy to grow it to a certain number. But if you're trying to stay localized, it's really important to keep your followers in that central market and what you're trying to what you're trying to do or sell or accomplish. And that's one of the things I was tying back into earlier is just know your market, know who you're selling to and stay within it. And even if you only have 5,000 followers, if all of those 5,000 people are actual customers, then you're doing well. Versus some accounts who have 50,000 and only 500 people are actually clients or customers. So.
Yeah. It's like that influencer recently that made the news because she has like 2.6 million followers or something like that, and she couldn't sell 30 t-shirts. It's just crazy. Like that was like a headline news. I was reading all about that a couple weeks ago. But I wanted to ask about your other social media as well. I think your Twitter, you're sitting at just over 7,000 followers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about Twitter. I haven't used Twitter in a while.
Really?
I love Twitter. Twitter is great for the news. So anything that's like news or interesting, I hop on it every once in a while to see what's happening in the city or check the weather and the traffic.
Yeah. So it's not a big part of like your social strategy or anything that you do personally for your influencing?
For me, no.
No.
I would love, I think I should, now that you're mentioning it, I should get back into it a little bit more. And I have done well on Twitter in the past. And the odd time a client will ask me to post something on Twitter or build their Twitter accounts. But it depends, again, what you're trying to sell. Twitter, each form of social media has a purpose. And Twitter's purpose is primarily humor, the news, and politics. And that's where those people, that demographic is. So unless you have something that is humorous, newsworthy, or political to say, then I would stay off of Twitter and focus on other avenues.
And the next one I tried to find and couldn't find it, drinking with friends.
Drinking with friends.
Yeah.
That was such a fun project. That footage is still sitting on a hard drive at a different studio. It never got completed, unfortunately. So yeah.
Was the end goal for that YouTube, or that going to be living on your website? Like it was a video content,
No, that was
right?
originally a YouTube project that we were doing with 613, and it was supposed to be amazing. I still hope to bring Drinking with Friends one day to the public. I still have had that idea in the back of my mind. It's just a matter of finding time to really execute it and do it. But I learned a lot through that process, and I'm looking forward to bringing it back.
Yeah. And then so with YouTube in mind, you don't have a YouTube account,
I
right?
don't have a new YouTube account, no.
Do you think there's ever a chance that you might start producing content around your expertise and all the things you know in the social space?
I would love to. Again, it just comes down to finding time. Right now, our company is growing so quickly that I'm really just focusing on that and keeping my clients happy and doing everything really well that way. However, that is the dream. The dream is to be able to have a YouTube channel. But I don't know if I would make it completely about, how to grow your social media accounts or how to do that. I feel like I'd want it to be something that's a little bit more natural and organic, that's maybe, I don't know, more personal, more about me.
Yeah, like more well-rounded to everything you do, not just social media.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then I was curious, is with you kind of growing your own account and working on your brand, do companies like your clients ever come to you and are concerned that you're working on your brand but not working on theirs. Like I have a friend who's in the service space who wants to create content and stuff and kind of work on his side of things, but he's worried that companies will be a little bit not upset, but they'll be questioning why he's working on his brand when he's supposed to be working on theirs.
I've never had anybody say that to me. I hope they don't feel that way because I actually always put my clients first. I have a harder time working on my own brand because I'm always doing everything for my clients, and at the end of the day, I'm tired of social media and I just sort of like forget about my own all the time. So you'll notice that I actually don't post on my own personal social media very often. Yeah, I consider it's like a chef who's like does 5-star meals all day and then come home and has a grilled cheese for dinner. It's like you're just tired.
Yeah. And then so like a big theme that you've kind of kept hitting on is how you have to know your market and know your niche. So how can someone best identify that niche or that target market?
Write it down. So I always say, who are your 2 ideal customers, and write them down. Whether it's, guy and girl, or 2 girls, 2 guys, however it is you decide that whatever it is you're trying to brand to, and write it down. Write down who that person is as if they were a real person. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their age? Where is their demographic? So forth and so on. So that once you have it written down, you can really go back to it. You can refresh it. You can, if you ever get veered off the path, you can kind of veer back on.
And so talk to me about the life of being an entrepreneur. What are some pros and cons to that?
The pros are you get to make your own hours. The cons are you never stop working. You are always on. And I find it, actually, this is something that I've never really heard many people speak on. It's very lonely. I used to have, like, when you're the boss, it's like there's nobody to, like, vent to. And you have your staff and your employees, which are all amazing, but you can't always tell them everything that you're going through as a leader and as the owner of the company. So I find it's just very lonely. And because it's my name, like on the door, I feel responsible for everything that happens, whether it's good or bad. So if anybody, sends out a misspelled email, I feel like it's directly a reflection of me. So those are the things that I find a little hard time dealing with.
And then what's the dynamic like having your own company versus working with other companies as an influencer yourself?
I think it's great. I've had companies not want to work with me because I have a social media company, and I think they're afraid I'm going to steal their client.
Interesting. Okay.
Which would never happen. I would never be that disrespectful. But it's really insightful to see how other people do it. I've taken some of the things that I've learned from other companies and used that information on how I then approach other influencers for our company. But usually there's no conflict. It's really easy, right? Because I understand what they're looking for and what their needs are, because it's usually what I'm looking for in an influencer as well.
Yeah. And so from your experience then, what are some pros and cons, not pros and cons, what are some positive experiences you've had with influencer marketing versus some negative experiences that you've had? You don't need to give specific examples, but just like generally.
I think one thing that's really important if you are using influencer marketing is to give them enough time to create good content. Every once in a while, I will agree to a campaign, but they won't send me the information until 2 days before it needs to be posted. I'm a very busy person. I don't always have time to take a high quality photo that I'm very proud of to reflect this campaign. However, I've signed a contract for it. So I have to do it. However, I feel like the company's getting shorthanded because they didn't give you enough time to actually create quality products. So when we work with influencers, I always try to give them a couple weeks to actually create the best content that they can. So that's something that I think is really good if you are working with influencers. Give them time. People often have more than one job or different things that they're trying to work through, and it's hard to just stop everything and take a photo.
And then so in your specific case, like how do companies usually reach out to you? Do they just find you on Instagram and send you the direct message?
Yes, I tell everyone always have your email on your social media accounts. It's one of the biggest things, even when I'm looking for influencers, if your email's not up there, I'm not taking the 5 minutes it's going to take to go to your blog and find where the contact information is and scroll down and enter it into our thing. So always have your email out. People just email me all the time. If you ever have questions, please email me. You'll find me on my social account, and I can just answer you back that way. It's a lot easier.
Yeah. And then so in your case, I've noticed you do more experiential kind of influencer marketing. Like from just scrolling through your account quickly, it feels like you get invited to more events than you do work with like a specific product and do like a product shot.
Yes, and I do that on purpose. So I only accept 4 campaigns a month because I'm so busy. I used to try to accept more, and then we came into that same route where had so much time. I didn't feel like I had enough time to create really good content for them, and that bothered me. And I felt like it wasn't properly reflected in my brand. So now I only accept 4 campaigns a month, and it makes it a lot easier. However, I like to go and support a lot of my friends in this industry, and they are always doing events at events, and I'm happy to go and support and be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. And
it's fun.
Yeah. But then, so how do you determine then what 4 companies you're going to work with that month?
It's usually the first 4.
Okay.
So I'm narrowing it down to things that I'm truly passionate about, that I really like, things that I want to do. So if it's something that interests me and I'm comfortable with the budget and the time frame. So there's a couple things I look at, but usually it's something that I'm actually interested in, because I find it's easier to create authentic content if you're passionate about it.
And you talked about how like all your friends that you've met through doing this are always throwing events and stuff. So how important is networking to everything that you've done in your career?
Extremely important. I've built my career on networking and my network and my reputation. So all 3 of those things are very important. And going and meeting with people face to face is a really big way of getting them to know you in a personal way. That's when it comes back to bringing social back into social media. It's be a sociable person, be somebody that people like, that they want to work with, that they feel comfortable having an honest conversation with, things along those lines.
So do you have any tips for people when it comes to networking? Because for a lot of people, I feel like it's daunting. When you're in a room full of people and you don't know anybody, like how do you approach a stranger?
Usually just trying to find something in common. You can ask them how they feel about this event. Is it their first time here? There are some generic questions that you can really use to icebreakers to open up a conversation. I always tell everyone, and even my staff when we go out to events together, you need to come home with 3 business cards. So have a mission, have a goal in mind that you need to talk to 3 new people that you didn't know and get their contact information. And just by doing something like that, it will really help to grow your business.
Mm-hmm. And then what about online networking? Because I feel like there's a big component to it as well. Would it be just like sending a message on Instagram or commenting on someone's photo? Is that something that you do as well often?
We do. So, and Instagram limits how many things you can like and comment in an hour. But yes, it's one of those things. People spend a lot of time and a lot of effort working on these posts. It's nice to understand and to be recognized for something. And it's community, right? So the more we can build each other up, it helps with algorithms to also have those comments in there. So we want that. And I understand and I recognize that for my friends, and they recognize that for me and what I do. And it's true comments. Like, if that looks like a really fun activity, I will say so. If the photo of your food looks delicious, then I'm happy to say so. Like, that is good. And it's a great way for people to feel seen and heard. Mm-hmm. I do see you and I do like you. And
yeah, and you've also done some public speaking as well. Mm-hmm. But you just mentioned this to me like offhand yesterday at the influencer event that we were at.
Yes, we met at Spin Class, by the way.
Yesterday. But you mentioned that you do public speaking, and I couldn't find much online around your public speaking. So how did those events come about? Like, how did you get into that?
Yes, usually for conferences and conventions, so they don't usually have cameras and videos at those. You have to pay for a ticket to come in, and most of my speaking's been on branding. So how to properly brand your company, and the psychology behind branding, and how to brand yourself as a person. I also do some speaking for Blogit. I don't know if anyone's heard of Blogit. My friend Shika does it, so it's a great conference, and that's also about influencer marketing and how to become an influencer, how to become a blogger, what are the pros and cons, how to go about doing it in those steps. We try to focus on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. What would your best advice be to someone that wants to become an influencer then?
Be honest and just keep working hard at it. Consistency is key, but like you said again, just engagement. So engage. There are a lot of communities out there, and also find someone else who is passionate about it as well, because it's just like being an entrepreneur. It can be really lonely at first, and if you find someone to do it with you, it can be a lot more fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So would you ever think that down the line, like kind of we talked on it a little bit earlier, but would you ever start recording your speeches and stuff and cutting them up into content and posting them on social media?
I've been asked to.
Yeah?
I keep meaning to. I have been asked to. I've been asked on multiple occasions by a couple different organizations if I could put together a course or a package, or if I could do the YouTube channels, and I would love to. It's in the works, but I probably won't get to it till November or December.
That's fair. And I've done a couple of social media trends I wanted to kind of run by you and get your opinion on them. The first one is deplatforming. I was listening to another podcast a couple days ago, and they're talking about how with problems with the algorithm and stuff like that, whether it be Instagram or YouTube and YouTube demonetizing different new channels, is people deplatforming and creating their own website.
Absolutely.
Platform.
So I get requests all the time by companies asking me to try out their new social media platform of some sort. And I actually try to. I can't do all of them because there's only so many hours in a day, but I do try to start on some of them. And one of the things that an influencer I met a really long time ago told me, and we were in San Francisco, and she mentioned to me, I was asking her how she grew her following to be in the multi-millions. And she just said, I got here first. I was one of the first people on Instagram. And so back when the algorithms were a little bit looser and stuff like that, she just grew like wildfire. And I keep telling myself that all the time, that who doesn't want to be the first person on the new next big thing? And you never know what the new next big thing is. And it's bound to happen soon with all the changes and stuff that have been happening to social media. I know a lot of people who are coming off of Instagram, coming off of Facebook, disconnecting, that there's bound to be a new one coming soon.
And then how do you feel about Instagram removing likes?
I don't like it because it's really bad for my company and myself as an influencer. However, I do understand the psychological aspect of it. I've heard rumors of what Instagram's going to do and like things that they're going to shift on how to do that, but I don't know if they're true, so I don't want to say them out loud because I don't want to sound like that. But hopefully they bring it back or they find some sort of system. I understand that Instagram and Facebook is a publicly traded company and their job is to bring in as much revenue and more revenue every year. And that's something that we just have to learn to live with and accept, that they're going to make it harder and more challenging on everybody in this industry, therefore forcing us to pay more money for advertising and growing their bank accounts. And we're just going to have to figure it out.
And then what about the Instagram stories? Because I saw some data that report that story consumption will surpass feed consumption this year. Like people spend more time in their stories than their feed.
Yes, your feed is limited, right? Because you only get to maybe write a sentence or two. There's not really a lot of like talking and videos and stuff like that necessarily in your feed. Whereas in the stories, you can I engage a lot more in my stories. If I'm at a concert, I will post one photo to my Instagram, but I might post 4 or 5 fun activities that happened that night, and you get to see my personality come through a little bit more. Maybe I get to be like a little bit goofy or a little bit weird, or maybe a photo that's not too like pretty or perfect, but I'll still post it anyways because that's like the real moment in that time. And I prefer seeing people's stories sometimes. Like there's a lot of stories that I like to follow.
Yeah. What about Snapchat? Do you think Snapchat's dying?
Unfortunately, yes. I hope it comes back. I really hope that Snapchat finds a way to bring everything back. I think there's still a lot of possibility there. But yeah, I think it's slowing down.
I think it's, as a social platform, it's slowing down. I think as like a communication platform, it's still doing fairly well.
So Snapchat's so I only have, I think, like 25 people on my Snapchat on purpose because I actually know those 25 people. They're like my friends from out of town that we send each other like really goofy photos and we're like really weird about each other. And so those are like the people that I have on my Snapchat. And so I reserve that for very close friends and family for that reason, because sometimes I find that my other social accounts have grown so big that I don't always I miss a lot of things from my friends and for my close relatives and stuff like that I don't get to see that I get to see on Snapchat.
Yeah, and so Snapchat, typically when people think of it, it's for the younger demo. Have you done anything with TikTok, which I feel like is emerging now as like the leader for that 13 to 17 target market?
We haven't done too much with it. I've dabbled in it a little bit. I'm not really sure exactly how well it's going to take off. Like I think it's still sort of I'm gonna stop talking.
Okay, I gotcha. Is there any other social trends that you're kind of keeping an eye on?
I'm still a big fan of Twitch. Like something that's like really live. I love Twitch, but like away from video games. So obviously it had its was its main sort of focus was video games and gaming and stuff like that. But it's also really good for anyone who's a performer. It's great for DJs. It's great for a lot of other businesses and avenues who want to show that real authenticness that they have. And people just get to sit there and watch maybe like a garment get made and created from scratch to finish, or a DJ do an amazing set in a nightclub that is live, that is amazing. That's something that you can bring that experience into your home.
And so what kind of content are you consuming then? Whether it be Twitch, YouTube, Instagram?
I consume a lot of business. My idols are all leaders in their industry. And those are the people that I tend to follow the most. Those are my favorites to follow. So yeah.
Do you have any examples?
Jane Wu from the Lazy CEO. She's Australian, and she's one of my favorite people to follow. She was supposed to be an accountant, and is the owner of Shoppo, which is a very large retail company. In her first year, she made $7 million and ended up on the cover of an accounting magazine. And her quote, which was my favorite, she's like, "Had I stayed an accountant, I would never be on the cover of an accounting magazine."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about culture? Like, is there anything in culture that you're kind of keeping an eye on right now?
I really love streetwear. It's one of my favorite things. So I'm also like a fashion stylist at Bayshore Shopping Center, and streetwear and menswear is one of my favorite things. So culturally, I tend to stick with that, like a lot of my streetwear, my sneakers, and that kind of stuff.
So what's next for you? What do you got coming up?
What do we got coming up? We're just growing the company. We got a bunch of events coming up this summer and a couple more campaigns. We're just trying to grow our influencer network and keep our clients happy. Yeah.
And so what's like your long-term goal then?
My long-term goal is to become the household name for all social media marketing.
Okay.
That's
awesome.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I ask everyone the same standard, like, couple questions. The first one being, if you're going to dinner and you could take 3 people, it could be anybody, dead or alive, who would you take to dinner?
Oh, God, so much pressure. My grandfather, he and I were very close, and he sort of made me, I have very similar mindset that he did, so I would love to see him again. He passed away a couple years ago. Jane Wu, who is the Lazy CEO, just because I'd love to like pick her brain, and she also just seems really fun. And oh God, this is getting hard. Maybe like Oprah, but only because I really love like the business mindset of Oprah. And who doesn't want to meet Oprah?
Yeah.
Or Michelle Obama.
Okay. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
The best advice I have ever gotten is train everyone 120% because they will only do 80% of what you tell them.
Okay. I like that. So when your alarm goes off in the morning, what motivates you to get up and out of bed?
I don't actually set an alarm.
Really?
So yeah, we don't open our office until 10 a.m. I'm not a morning person. I'm not the happiest to be around in the morning. So yeah, we work 10 to 6 every day. So I usually wake up around 7, sort of really ease into my day, and take a shower, watch the news, and go to work.
Fair enough. What's one thing about you people wouldn't expect?
Wouldn't expect. I really like country music.
Okay.
Paired with like really urban street style.
Interesting.
Yes.
So then
a little bit all over the map.
How did you react then to the song Old Town Road? Because it was like hip hop and country kind of merging.
I loved it, and I also loved all the controversy around it on how it was such a great move to have it pulled from country radio to like skyrocket the chart, because once you can create controversy around something, it's going to be great. I love the song. I think it's really good, and country music has really been shifting into a lot of like modern music, or like they've been sort of pairing off of each other, collaborating with each other, so it's nice to see it merge together.
And what's interesting about that song too is like how Lil Nas X kind of leaned into culture, like with the younger audience, because I heard someone talking about how that song blew up initially before all the controversy was he just started producing meme after meme after meme with his song as the background to that meme.
Yeah, social media can get you far.
It's crazy.
Yes, going viral works.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any unpopular opinions?
I do.
Do you want to share any or no?
I don't know. God, I don't know.
We can skip this one.
Well, like, I'm actually very passionate about it, so I feel like maybe I should say it, but I'm really afraid of all the backlash I'm going to get from it. But I don't hire women because they're women. I hire women because they're really good at their job.
Okay.
And I'm the same way. I would not want to be hired just for being a woman. I want to be hired for being the best person for that job. So I'm a big part of a lot of like women groups and female empowerment, and I believe that women can do anything, if not more than men. However, we shouldn't be treated differently. We should be expected to deliver the same results.
I think that I hope you get to a point where that's not an unpopular opinion.
Me too.
What's one thing that's so important everybody needs to know?
Kindness. So what's really important to me is kindness, and it will take you really far. A lot of times you don't know who you're speaking to, and always make sure that everybody that you interact with leaves feeling that they were like respected and happy, because you will eventually run into that person one day, whether it's 5-10 years later, and it's important that they have that, and it will really help grow your business and your network.
So for the last question, I kind of like to flip the script a little bit. If you could know the answer to anything, you had like a crystal ball that showed you whatever you asked it, what's one question you'd want to know the answer to?
My goodness, I don't know. One question I would want to know the answer to is, I don't know, when will you die?
Okay.
Like how many days you have left on this earth? It'd be nice to kind of have like a calculation,
Really?
maybe. I don't know.
I don't know if I'd want to know, because then it'd be stressing.
I don't know. I don't know what I want to know. I feel like the future is so unpredictable that it's beautiful that way.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast.
Oh.
I want to give you the floor. Where can the people find you? Plug everything and anything that you got.
All right, guys. So you can follow me on Instagram at Miss Guenette, and you can follow me on Twitter at Melissa Guenette, Facebook Melissa Guenette. Just shoot me a message, say hi. If you have any questions about social media marketing, or if it's something you want to get into, or you're not sure how to brand your company, please just email me. I'm happy to answer you. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much once again for coming on the podcast. And I want to thank everybody for listening. Whether you've listened the entire way through, you've only listened to bits and pieces, I really appreciate you taking the time to check this out. Do me a favor, everybody, go and follow Melissa on Instagram, follow her on Twitter. I'll make sure everything is linked in the show notes down below. And if you'd like to follow me, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @thejacobkelly. Come and say hello. And if you'd like to follow the podcast, you can find it on Instagram at @MySocialLifePodcast, or on YouTube by searching up My Social Life. Thank you once again for listening, everybody. We'll talk soon.